Hey everybody, welcome back to homerecordingmadeeasy.com, and here on my YouTube channel. And this time out, we're going to do a look of the first video that we're going to do in a series of a couple of videos here, 2 or 3 videos on the new Icon DAW controller. This is the upgrade to the old Icon Q-Con Pro X. This is the Icon V1-M, and this is an 8-channel DAW controller. It's been fully redesigned, new and improved. Just got it out of the box, hooked it up. I'm going to show you how to set it up quickly with your DAW. And I'm going to give you my first impressions on this and show you some of the features and some of the improvements over the Icon Q-Con Pro X back from a couple of years ago. And then in the future videos, we're going to do things like how do you control plugin mapping. We'll do a little mixing with it and we'll kind of walk through it. So if you have not seen the old videos, I'll link them in the description box below for the old Icon Q-Con Pro X. This is the upgraded version of that. That was a great controller. This one is far better, I'll tell you. And so you can check out those videos. Link will be in the description box below. I think we did a 3 or 4 part series. So that's what we're going to do in this quick video. Video 1 of the V1-M by Icon. So before we get started, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Free mixing course right at the top of the homepage. You can't miss it. It's a $100 mixing course. It's my gift to you just for visiting Home Recording Made Easy. And then if you stick around till the end of the video, I'll give you something else for free. Okay, so here we are. On the desk, we have the new Icon V1-M. This, I will say, right out of the box, just my memory of the Icon Q-Con Pro X, that was a great controller. This, I can already tell you, is better. It's better from a fit and finish. It's got a lot of cool upgrade improvements. We're going to talk about some of them today. The feel of this thing is without a doubt better than the Icon Q-Con Pro X. And I think the size of the unit physically, I'd have to go back and look at the dimensions, but this feels like it's even a little bit smaller, a little more compact than the old version. So this is cool on so many different levels. So I want to thank you, Icon, for sending me this unit so I can do this review for you, but they're not paying me for the video. You know how all that jazz goes. We do this all the time. I'm going to tell you what I really think about this thing in part 3 or 4, which will be my likes and dislikes. I also have the V1X, which is the 8-channel extender, which I'll show you maybe in the next video. You could put 2 of these things together and you can have 16 faders. I think you could do up to 4 to have 32 faders, which will be cool, but I'll show you the extender and how that works. So first thing I want to do is I just want to talk to you about the basic layout of this thing. Okay, so what makes this unit really cool and better than most of the other DAW controllers on the market from a cosmetic standpoint is this beautiful meter bridge here. And this is the same that they did on the Icon Q-Con Pro. And what I'll do is I know we have an overhead shot, but I'm going to take some iPhone video here as well, just to show it to you, because it doesn't do it justice unless you really see it up close. So here's the beautiful meter bridge on this thing. And this has way better screens, scribble strip screens. These are a huge improvement over the last version of this. These are really nice. They're much bigger. They're much better lit. It is very easy to see, very easy to read. And then we have our LED meters above this, which again, if I hit play here on the transport, you'll see. Okay, then we have our beautiful meter readout here, which is cool. That was on the Icon Q-Con as well. But this is a far, far better meter bridge, far better screen than the last one. Okay, so that's a look at that quickly. Okay, so that's the thing that sets this thing apart from a cosmetic point of view. It just looks so cool. And because the screens are so greatly improved, it is a huge upgrade over the last one. The other thing that you'll see here on the last one, channel 8 here on that screen, let me take a little shot of that if you didn't see it the first time. This also shows you the DAW that you have this configured for. You can configure this for 3 different DAWs at the same time, which is really cool. And you do that by using the DAW function keys right here, 1, 2, and 3. I have it for Studio One, Luna, and Cubase, which is really cool. You couldn't do that on the last one. That's another huge improvement. You can use different DAWs, but you had that little metal insert, you had to slap it over, you had all the kind of clicky buttons. It was clunky. It worked, but it was clunky. This is way better, much better improved. So what do we have? We have 8 channels here, right? We have our pan pots here at the top. We have record, solo, mute, and a select, which is really cool. And as you'll see in Studio One here, when you hit the select, it follows the DAW in Studio One. That was one of the other major problems on the Icon Q-Con Pro. It didn't do that. It does it now, which is really cool. Super important. Could never understand why people couldn't get this right, but this seems to work really, really well. Underneath that, we have our secondary screen here, which right now says this is channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think depending on the DAW, I'll have to read more about this in the manual, will depend on what that screen says. And even on the old Icon Q-Con Pro, if I remember right, this secondary screen was almost useless. And I think that depends on the DAW that you're using. But I really don't care about that because we have such great scribble strips here on this meter bridge. I really, really like it. Underneath that, we have our 8 motorized faders, and I will tell you, these things are super, super smooth. You can see in Studio One, there's no lag, there's no latency at all. I won't know till I see the video recording of this if the video is causing a little bit of lag or latency, but I can tell you just by looking at it here in real time, it's perfect. Really, really, really nice. Works really, really well. This is beautiful. They feel great. They really do feel great. They feel just as good as the SSL UF8, which is, one of my favorite DAW controllers, and I have one. This one feels just as good. Next to that, over here on the right, we have our transport section, which is really, really cool. We got this huge jog wheel, which is metal, which is really, really smooth, which is great. I love it. It's almost too smooth. I wish it was a way you can add a little drag to it. It's like, woo, you can just spin it forever, which is cool. But I don't know, for me, I wish there was a way to put a little resistance on it, but it is super, super smooth for scrubbing and for doing things like that. Next to that, on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, we have our move for navigation and our zoom functions on our tracks, depending on which DAW you're using. So like here, if I hit navigation here and that kind of lights up, if I, what do I do here? Master assign, is that how that works? Now these buttons will work a little differently depending on the DAW that you're using. I'm not really sure what it does for Studio One. Oh, I see. No, I see exactly what it does. Okay. So as you can see, as I hit navigation, if I turn my jog wheel, that will select our tracks. So you hear that in the console, also in the edit screen, it'll do that as well. If I close my, oh no, I have to keep my console open. So it'll select through the tracks. If I hit move, I'm not sure what that does. It does the same thing. I'm not sure why that's different. And again, that could just be from DAW specific, but that'll navigate this way. Over here on the right-hand side of that, this will adjust the size of your tracks. So if I close my mixer here and I hit this button here, you'll see that I can zoom in and out of my timeline. If I hit zoom, I can make my tracks bigger or smaller, which is kind of cool. Again, this thing it moves so freely, so quickly. You got to be kind of gentle. You could really, but that's kind of cool. Right? If you wanted to do that, you wanted to shrink up your tracks here and say, okay, that's cool. And then I want to close it on my timeline like that. That's pretty cool as well. And then we can take that off. If we hit focus, what does focus do? I'm not really sure what focus does in Studio One here. Again, I got to read the manual on this. Again, this is my first impressions, really my first get it out of the box, hook it up. How quickly can we kind of figure this out? That's why I like to do these reviews. I didn't say that at the beginning. I didn't spend a month with this figuring out all the nooks and crannies. I get it out of the box, I plug it in. How quickly can we get most of these things running? What are my first impressions so you can see my initial reaction? So when you get this home in your studio, you can have a similar experience. Okay, so the focus, I'm not really sure what that does. Okay, this will just scroll through. Cool. Okay, so there we go. And if I hit focus, that is going to, I don't know what focus does. I'll have to read the manual on that. But we have these nice soft key buttons here. This all feels really, really good. Above that, we have our transport section. So if we come all the way back to the beginning, we can select and move one track at a time. As you can see on the icon, things are moving, the faders are moving one track at a time. And on the display, it's moving over the tracks one at a time, or we can go in banks of 8. That's pretty standard on most controllers. And I will say it's super responsive. And the other thing I will say, when you do this, it's relatively quiet. Actually, it seems like there's less noise with the jogging of the tracks and the faders than even on the SSL, which is kind of surprising, to be honest. I'm a little surprised by that. Then we have a flip button where you can flip the faders from the volume to the send level. So if I was on track number 3 here, where we have a send here in the DAW, and I hit flip, I believe this now will, that'll flip the panning. See the panning? So that'll go from volume to panning. So the flip button will flip between volume and panning. So we have our pan pots here. If I press it in, it'll go back to the center. So when you hit flip, you can pan using your faders as opposed to the encoders at the top, which is really cool. Then we have all of our automation buttons here: off, read, trim, write, latch, and touch. Pretty cool. If I go to track number 1 and I go to read, you'll see it lights up read, or I can go to trim. I think that's a Pro Tools thing. Write, latch, touch, off. There we go. Off. Off. There we go. Underneath that, we have our transport controls. We can forward our playhead, fast forward and rewind, and you'll see on the LCD screen here, up here, that it follows along. We have our cycle, turn on and off. We have our stop, play, and our record. This feels great. Really, really nice upgraded buttons. Again, way better than the Icon QCon Pro X. Way, way better. Lastly, probably the largest improvement to this whole thing is this section up here, these IMAP keys, which we'll talk about the IMAP software in a second. These here are all the different functions depending on the DAW that you have programmed. And these are all touchscreen stuff, which is fantastic. On the old unit, it was the hard clicky buttons. They were hard to read when they were backlit. I think we talked about that in some of those videos. This is far better, far easier to read. I'll take a little video in case the overhead camera doesn't pick it up as well because of the lighting. But these are beautiful. Look how nice it is. Really, really nice. Really, really easy to read. Really, really cool. And what you have here is you have some function layers at the top. First, you can program your 3 DAWs, which I'll show you about in a minute. Then we have function layers, blue, green, and orange. So you can see the text is in blue. When I go to green, you'll see the text lights up in green. And then if I go to orange, this is blank. This is where you can save all your different functions for user commands for your DAW that's specific. They're already kind of pre-mapped, but you can change that in the IMAP software. And then you have a user 1 and a user 2. So you can really program this thing to the way you want to use it, which is really, really cool. So that's the basic overview. Fit and finish. It feels and looks pro level. It looks great. It really, really does. The only downside to it is it does take up a little bit of real estate on your desk, and most of that's due to this meter bridge, but it's well worth it. Now, let's jump in quickly, and then we'll end this video for now. Let's show you the IMAP software. So when you first get this thing and you open it up, the very first thing you want to do is go out to the Icon website, which I'll link in the description box below. Here's a screenshot of it. You're going to want to go to the V1-M DAW controller. You're going to want to scroll down here. And here, customizable touchscreen. Oh, you can take a look at all this stuff on their website, but you want to download the IMAP software. The IMAP software is what communicates with this thing that sits between this thing and your DAW. And you always have to have that application running in the background in order to use this. You could just minimize it in your dock, but you need to do that. You'll also see the user manuals and everything here. Okay, so I'll link this in the description box below. And here you can see we have an extender on here, the V1-M and the V1X. We will do that in the next video where I'll show you all 16 faders. And here's all the IMAP stuff. So you get that, you download it, and then you put it on your desktop. You want to open this thing up, and here is the IMAP software, which is greatly improved, way simpler. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want a firmware upgrade. You hit the firmware upgrade, it'll upgrade. It'll be communicating, it'll upgrade your stuff. You want to do that. Then you can also see here, at the top here, you have our general settings, all our MIDI stuff, and then our button functions. So on the general settings, you'll see our DAWs across the top. We have the ability to do 3 DAWs. So we have 1, 2, 3, and depending on the DAW that you have, chosen will depend on how the touchscreen, all the different things that are already pre-mapped. How you choose which DAWs you want to use is by over here on the right-hand side under DAW. And you see, I think there's a whole bunch of them. I don't know how many, 18 DAWs that are all pre-mapped here. So what you would do is you'd go like, say, to number 3, the little red button lights up. And if I wanted to change that to Pro Tools, I can change that to Pro Tools. Okay. But let's change it back to Cubase because that's my 3rd DAW. Where's Cubase? There we go, right there. And then if I always want, let's say, Studio One to be my main DAW every time I turn this thing on, just click on the red button here and I can go save as user default. And that'll allow me to save this. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about more of the IMAP stuff in the future on how you can program stuff. Okay, so this is how you set up your 3 DAWs, okay? We have functions, we have hotkeys, and we have MIDI notes here. The button functions here, this shows you the representation of the touchscreen. Remember I told you there's 3 layers, blue, green in the center, and then the orange or the yellow is at the bottom here where you can program different functions based on your DAW, and you can make this all customized to the way you want it. Now they've already set up a bunch of stuff for you, and you can use what they've given you, or you can change that around. And again, we'll do that in another video. But you always have to have this running in the background. So you can see all the different commands that they have here, and they have all the different functions here that you can use to customize this touchscreen here to make it to the way you want to use it. So that's how you set everything up when you first get this thing opened and plugged in. You want to upgrade your firmware, set up your DAW or 3, depending on how many DAWs you're going to use. Save your user default as the one you're going to use the most if you'd like. And then you can go over to the button functions, and we'll talk about this later. But you just want to minimize this. You always got to keep it open in order to run this. So when you're here in Studio One here, you'll see that, again, we have our first layer here, and we have a bunch of different things here that we can, I got to go DAW1. There we go. So DAW1, you'll see, will change the way the touchscreen works. If I was working in Luna, the commands are different. If I was working in Cubase, the commands are different. But I'm working in Studio One, and every time I switch the DAW, you'll see it switches the little display right here above channel 8 on the meter bridge, like we talked about earlier, which is really cool. So you have things like, if you're looking at Studio One, we have things like we can open and close our console. We have things where we can open and close the input side. If we want to enclose the input side, we can add an insert here. We can close it. We can open a toggle window, open up the plugin on our tracks. We can close that. We can add a send level if we'd like to. We can close that as well. We can do things like auto punch, turn the metronome on and off. These are things that are already pre-mapped. We can look at our tracks here, and when we hit these buttons across the top, the meter bridge is going to change, and you're going to use the encoders to go ahead and perform those functions. So for example, when we hit track, if I'm on track 1 here, and I select track 1, the meter bridge says bypass all. This means the 2 effects that are my 2 inserts that are on track 1, I can just hit click in, or I can turn the button, click return, and it will bypass my effects, right? If I had a monitor set up and I had an input set up, I could turn the monitoring on and off. Here's the input. We can change the input here. You can see above track 1 here, I'm changing the input of the track, right? So we'll go back to, you can change all the input to whatever you want. Or I think I can go to none just by clicking, just by pushing it in. The output, again, right now, track 1's going to the drum bus. You can turn it and you can change it to anything you want. So once you hit track on the touchscreen, all the track functions pop up on the LCD screen. And again, it's big, it's easy to read. You don't run out of characters like you did on the old version where you couldn't always read what was on the screen. It's great. We have send 1, 2, 3, and 4 bypass. So if we have a send level that's bypass, we can do that here. If you look at track 3, you'll see that I have a send set up to go to a drum reverb. If I wanted to bypass that, I can just press that, whoops, and that'll turn off the send. So it is really intuitive and it is really easy. And again, I haven't cracked open the manual or done anything. I plugged it in, made sure it worked, went through the setup process like I just showed you, and I turned on the camera and started recording. Because it's really intuitive. It's super intuitive. If I hit sends, here's our send here. Right now on track 1, we have the sends only going to one drum reverb here on the screen. So this is our sends for going to the drum reverb, okay? If we hit panning, that'll bring us back to where we can pan the track that we're touching here, we're selecting. Again, you can press it in, you could zero it out. Plugins, we're going to get into in another video where you can map some of the plugin parameters to the different encoders. We'll see if that's any more improved than what it was on the old Icon QCOM Pro X. And then there's everything from turning your transport from beats and bars to minutes and seconds. We have auto punch. We can turn the metronome on and off. It's really, really cool. We can open and close the console, like I said. And that's all just in layer 1, function layer 1. If you go to function layer 2, we have other things here. We can take a look at all of our buses. Right now we only have one bus. So now this is our drum bus. Fader. If I wanted to go back to audio tracks, it snaps back to audio tracks. If we wanted to go to audio inserts here, we don't have any, or audio instruments, excuse me, that's instrument tracks. I don't have any in this session, so we don't need to worry about that. Or if we had any effects tracks, I have one effects tracks. Again, that's my drum reverb here. So there you go. So you have audio tracks, instrument tracks, effects tracks, buses. Here's our drum bus. And then if I want to get back to all my audio tracks, I just hit that and it snaps right back. So again, super, super intuitive, this thing. This thing is really, really great as far as it's just easy to use right out of the box without even having to break open the manual. So that's a basic walkthrough of the new Icon V1-M. This thing is killer. If you have the old one, would you say this is an upgrade? From a fit, finish, and build quality, absolutely. The touchscreen here, absolutely. The feel of the buttons, absolutely. The functionality of the way it maps plugins and stuff, I don't know yet, but the meter bridge, the LCD, absolutely. This is an upgrade through and through from what I can tell. We'll talk a little bit more about the things I specifically like and maybe some things I think need to be improved as we dive more into the series. But so far, I think this is really, really cool. Last thing I'll tell you before we head out, when you first turn this on, depending if you're a Windows and a Mac user, with this thing in the off position, you're going to hold down encoder number 4. This little encoder, you're going to press it in, hold it in while you turn it on. And on the LCD screen, you're going to see it say Mac OS or Windows. And you only have to do this once. You're going to choose which operating system you're using. And then from there on out, you're good to go. So that's the only other thing that I didn't show you that you'll have to do. So again, when it's powered off, first thing you probably want to do is hold down encoder number 4, keep it depressed, turn it on, choose your operating system. Then from there, get to your IMAP software, upgrade your firmware, set up your DAW as we showed you, and then you can just start working. Come on back for the next video where we're going to jump a little bit more into the touchscreen. How do we plug in control stuff, map, how do we customize our touchscreen? So if we want to have specific functions that are not already pre-mapped, how easy it is to do that. And then we'll do a quick little demonstration, mix up some faders and stuff, and then we'll do a likes and dislikes video. So thank you so much for sticking around and taking a look at the Icon V1-M. Oh, and we'll also look at the extender in the next video as well. We'll pop on that extra 8 channels. So we got 16 channels of things happening here. Okay, so make sure you check out the next video. Links will be in the description box below for Icon and all the things that you need to know about as it pertains to this video. Now, because you stuck around to the end of the video, I want to give you another little free gift. So as I said, go to homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Get that free mixing course. It's right on the homepage. It's my gift to you just for visiting Home Recording Made Easy. Once you take that course, if you want to take one of my other training courses, we have everything from EQ, mixing, mastering, compression, parallel compression, everything from beginners, intermediate, and advanced. Anything on my website, I want to give you a 25% discount coupon code. That coupon code is YouTube25. Put that in at checkout. It will take 25% off any training course on the website. So until the next video where we take a look at some more functionality of the V1-M by Icon, I've been Dave with homerecordingmadeeasy.com. Thank you so much for watching me today, everybody, and I'll see you guys in the next video.